After photos of Oscar kissing a junior girl leaked online, he explained it to me with complete indifference. It was just a bar game. If you insist on making a big deal out of it, there's nothing I can do. After that, I never questioned any of his scandals again, until the news about him cheating with that junior girl at a hotel exploded online. And for once, he actually took the initiative to call me and explain himself. At that moment, I was sitting on his brother's lap, kissing him. The man pinched my chin gently and smiled softly. He's calling you now. Does he want me to kill him? Oscar instantly exploded in rage. Which fucking guy are you with? Your brother. Chapter 1. The moment I saw the photo of Oscar kissing someone else, I rushed to the bar. The instant I pushed the door open, the atmosphere inside froze. What are you doing here? Oscar sat in the shifting shadows of the lights, a cigarette between his lips. Sitting beside him was the girl from the photo. Tiffany. My boyfriend kissed another girl. Am I not allowed to come see for myself? I walked over and placed my phone in front of Oscar. He only glanced at it once before letting out a careless laugh. It was just a game. If you insist on taking it seriously, that's your problem. Tiffany leaned tightly against Oscar, her voice even sweeter than her name. Tina. Girl. You're way too conservative. Oscar and I were just playing a game. It was only a camera angle misunderstanding. I didn't respond to her. The awkward silence made her look embarrassed. Oscar clicked his tongue lightly and slammed the lighter he'd been playing with onto the table. Why are you just standing there? The others at the table also started murmuring complaints under their breath. In the end, one of Oscar's bros stepped in to smooth things over, pulling me down into a seat while apologizing. The atmosphere finally became lively again. But this round, the game landed on me. Sis-in-law. Now you have to choose the guy closest to you and kiss him. The guy speaking shot me a suggestive look, hinting for me to look toward Oscar on my left. But on my right, there was also a guy. Everyone assumed I would kiss Oscar, including Oscar himself. He lazily swirled the wine in his glass, a smug smile hanging from his lips, not even bothering to look at me. Just as I was being publicly cornered, the silver-haired guy beside me suddenly leaned closer and chuckled near my ear. I won't actually kiss you. We can fake it with the angle. Or are you planning to stay awkward like this forever? I pressed my lips together, wavering slightly. Just as I started leaning toward him, a hand suddenly grabbed my shoulder with force. I was pulled straight into someone's embrace. Oscar looked at the silver-haired guy with a half-smile. Buddy, do you not know she's my girlfriend? The silver-haired guy shrugged awkwardly. So what? You've got a girlfriend and still kissed someone else anyway. Before Oscar's expression could completely darken, several people hurried over to smooth things out and barely managed to defuse the tension. Chapter 2. Nina. If you're trying to use another guy to deliberately piss me off and make me jealous, I can tell you right now, it's impossible. Oscar let go of me and sneered. I looked at him. Then why did you stop me from kissing him? Hearing that, Oscar leaned closer, like he was teasing a cat. The back of his fingers brushed lightly against my cheek. With a mocking chuckle, he said, the reluctance in your eyes was practically overflowing. You think I don't know how conservative you are? You'd really kiss some random stranger? I could clearly see the contempt in his eyes. I just think there's no need for all this. Baby. His careless attitude made the frustration in my chest grow even heavier. I unconsciously clenched the hem of my dress. So, in their eyes, I was some old-fashioned prude. For a brief moment, I desperately wanted to act indifferent and boldly kiss the stranger beside me, to slap Oscar in the face in front of everyone. But just like they said, I was a little too conservative. I couldn't do it. The next second, the game called on Oscar. Oscar, you have to eat the same chocolate biscuit stick with the first girl on your left, and the remaining piece has to be shorter than 1 centimeter. Tiffany was sitting to his left. Oscar didn't even lift his eyes, holding the back of Tiffany's flushed neck. He bit down on the biscuit stick with her. This time, I saw it clearly, although it was incredibly close. They really hadn't kissed. But it didn't matter anymore. Amid the crowd's cheering and teasing, I silently left. The moment I walked out of the bar, I sent Oscar a breakup text. At the time, I never could have imagined. Oscar never saw that message. Chapter 3. Rain drizzled endlessly through the night. As I walked back toward campus, My consciousness grew hazier and hazier. For some reason, it felt like I was trapped in the middle of a scorching summer. Hot, stifling, hard to breathe. Only then did I realize I must have accidentally drunk someone's spiked drink earlier. While crouching by the roadside trying to recover, a black Cullinan slowly stopped in front of me. The car door opened. Through the misty rain, I looked up at the person inside and started rambling nonsense. "Big brother, can I borrow your air conditioning for a bit?" The man stepped out of the car and helped me inside. The face before me resembled Oscar's by about 30%. He was Oscar's half-brother from the same father, Sean. Calling him Big Brother was only instinctive, because I used to follow Oscar's lead and call him that too. But at that moment, he merely glanced at me faintly and gave no response. Chapter 4. How do you want me to help you? I sat on his lap with my arms around his neck, completely at a loss. "I don't know." Sean instructed the driver to leave, and the car remained parked by the roadside. As his fingers traced along my jawline, he slowly suggested, "How about we start with a kiss?" I clung to the very last thread of my fragile sanity. Wouldn't that be immoral, Big Brother? I had climbed onto his lap on my own initiative, yet I was asking something like that. It made me feel like one of those fake honor students who smoke, drink, and gamble while still obsessively checking the school rulebook. Sean took my hand and placed it against his tie. To my utter embarrassment, I instinctively started loosening the knot myself. "I don't have morals," he said. The final line of defense in my heart completely collapsed the moment I remembered I was single again. Chapter 5. It felt like an endlessly long arts and crafts lesson, and Sean was an exceptionally talented instructor, helping me solve this difficult problem. Back in the dorms, one of my roommates once said, "Nina, when your pleated skirt spins, it looks just like an umbrella." The umbrella handle moved beneath the canopy, concealing the storm no one else could see. In the end, the teacher seemed very satisfied and asked with amused interest, "How about I learn piano and play only for you?" I was practically unconscious by then. I wanted to tell him that he truly was suited for playing the piano. But today, I had already appreciated his performance 3 times. Chapter 6. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight touched the earth, I finally realized what I had done. Sean had brought me back to his house. After rehearsing countless explanations in my head, I finally gathered the courage to open the door. I planned to explain things to Sean properly. "Good morning," the man greeted warmly, but my footsteps froze in place, because he was sitting on the sofa, leisurely wiping down his private firearm. "Mr. Song, I wanted to discuss something with you." The next second, the man seemed to cock the gun. "Mr. Song?" he repeated with a gentle smile. "Didn't you call me Big Brother before?" I trembled instantly. "Let me guess what you want to say." He slowly toyed with the gun that looked more than capable of ending my life. Sean smiled faintly, his voice calm and unhurried. Yet for some reason, it carried a chilling edge. "You're not about to tell me to pretend nothing happened, are you?" His finger had already settled near the trigger. "Have you ever seen what happens to people who refuse to take responsibility?" I suddenly felt like my life was hanging by a thread. Cold sweat gathered in my palms. I'll take responsibility. I never should have provoked this lunatic. Only then did Sean finally set down the dangerously terrifying weapon. He walked over and lifted me into his arms. He sat on the sofa while I perched stiffly sideways on his lap. "Then call Oscar and break up with him now." "HM?" The man pressed a light kiss beneath my ear. I didn't dare touch my burning ear. Instead, I quietly told him, "I already broke up with him last night." Sean froze for a rare moment before his hand slid around my waist. "Such a good girl. Then I guess these won't be necessary anymore." Only then did I notice the belt and chains lying on the coffee table nearby. I closed my eyes slowly, utterly devastated inside. Had I really jumped straight from one hell into an even deeper one? Chapter 7. I was only allowed to return to school after being forced into having a boyfriend. By the time I walked absent-mindedly into the lecture hall, I happened to hear Oscar's voice. "Sis-in-law looked really angry when she left yesterday. Oscar, you should probably coax her later." Oscar's tone was indifferent. "You spoiled her too much. Why would I need to coax her? If I ignore her for a while, she'll come crawling back on her own." I didn't stop walking. As I entered, I happened to meet their eyes. Oscar merely glanced at me once before coldly looking away. Oh, looks like he had argued with Tiffany. Those people sure switched sides fast. They were already calling Tiffany sis-in-law now. I didn't think much about it and casually picked a seat far away from them. Honestly, both brothers were insane in their own ways. Before class started, Oscar suddenly acted like a lunatic and wrapped an arm around Tiffany as they sat in the seats directly in front of me. To be honest, I barely felt anything. After all, I had just experienced a life and death situation this morning. Oscar, thank you for helping me over here. My low blood sugar almost made me faint. So sorry for troubling you. I hope people won't misunderstand because of it. Tiffany looked delicate and fragile, barely managing to prop herself up from Oscar's arms. Oscar chuckled lightly. It's just helping a friend. Who's still that old-fashioned these days? Seeing people hug once and immediately assuming there's something romantic going on. Right after that, I noticed Oscar slightly tilt his head in my direction. So Tiffany and Oscar weren't actually together. I didn't bother digging deeper into whoever they were calling sis-in-law earlier anyway. It had nothing to do with me. Instead, I found myself thinking about Oscar's last sentence. I wondered if his brother counted as old-fashioned in his eyes, considering he literally pointed a gun at me and forced me to take responsibility. Nina Sr. Tiffany suddenly turned around and blinked innocently. I heard you didn't go back to the dorm last night. Why not? Oscar abruptly looked up at that, a terrifying coldness flashing through his eyes. You didn't go back to the dorm? Tiffany immediately added. Yeah, Oscar, you didn't know? Then she looked at me again. Tina, don't tell me you went to find another guy just to make Oscar jealous? She hurriedly added afterward. I'm just casually asking. I don't mean anything bad. Tina. Oscar stared at me intensely, his knuckles turning white from how tightly he clenched them. I looked at the two of them for several seconds before calmly nodding. Yeah, I really was with another man last night, and we kissed too. Wasn't that exactly what they wanted to hear? The moment I finished speaking, Oscar actually laughed. His shoulders relaxed again as he raised an eyebrow slightly. Nina, didn't I already tell you? You could never use another man to make me jealous in this lifetime. To Oscar, my words had zero credibility. If I had acted evasive, maybe he would have suspected something. But now, he treated my confession like a joke, worried that revealing my relationship with Sean too early would cause even more trouble. The only condition I gave Sean was to keep our relationship secret for now. I never expected that decision would create even more problems instead. That day, Sean came to our school as a special guest for the campus exhibition. Then my advisor informed me that Sean had personally requested me to be his guide and accompany him throughout the entire event. Unfortunately, around noon, we ran into Oscar and Tiffany. Bro, why is Nina your guide? Sean lazily lifted his eyes. Is there a problem? Oscar studied him suspiciously but didn't continue asking. Instead, he said, It's lunchtime anyway. Let's eat together. Right on cue. Tiffany spoke up. Oscar, can you bring me along too? She tugged lightly on his sleeve. Oscar frowned slightly, seemingly wanting to refuse. But just as he opened his mouth, he glanced toward me, who had been completely uninvolved the whole time. My expression didn't change. What did that have to do with me? The next second, Oscar's expression shifted. He chuckled lightly. Sure, why wouldn't it be okay? You guys don't mind, right? The question was directed at Sean and me, but his eyes stayed fixed on me the entire time. Whatever. After saying that, I got straight into Sean's car. I had mentally prepared myself for Tiffany to stir up drama, but I didn't expect the two of them to have absolutely no limits. The restaurant had a 4-person table. Tiffany immediately walked over beside Oscar and smiled innocently. Oscar, you're the only person I know here very well. Can I sit next to you? Hearing that, I sighed softly, suddenly troubled. Couldn't I just sit at a table by myself? But when I looked up again, I met Oscar's gaze. He looked like an absolute psycho. One moment his face was dark. The next he wore an unreadable smile. Oscar didn't answer immediately. Instead, he seemed to be in a very good mood. Tilting his chin toward me, he said, Ask her. Too lazy to respond, I simply sat down beside Sean instead. Chapter 8. I originally thought the entire meal would just be Tiffany putting on a show. Until Out of sheer boredom, the hand hanging beneath the table was suddenly grasped. The motion of me chewing broccoli instantly froze. I didn't even dare blink. The warmth in my palm came from Sean beside me, whose expression remained perfectly calm. Sean, brother, your hands are so beautiful. Across the table, Tiffany suddenly noticed Sean and revealed a sweet dimpled smile. Sean acted as if he hadn't heard her at all. Under the table, his hand slowly slipped between my fingers. Then he intertwined our fingers tightly together. My whole body stiffened from nervousness. Tiffany wasn't discouraged and continued talking on her own. Your hands look just like a pianist's. Do you play piano? For once, Sean actually gave her a glance. I've played before. Then he added lazily. 3 times. Cough, cough. I instantly choked on my broccoli. For a moment, the eyes of everyone at the table turned toward me. With his free hand, Sean poured me a cup of hot water. Then thank you. I quickly used the chance to pull my hand away and drink water. Oscar frowned at the sight. Can't you eat slower? I had no time to deal with him, so I excused myself to the restroom to calm down. But the moment I reached the sink, the person following behind suddenly wrapped an arm around my waist and pulled me into his embrace. I haven't seen you for an entire week. The man's warm breath brushed lightly against my neck. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, completely flustered. Face burning red. Someone might come. They won't. Sean met my eyes through the mirror. Then he turned me around in his arms so I was facing him directly. His hand rose to gently stroke my cheek. As the distance between us shortened, he asked softly, "Still not ready to make it public?" My hand pressed weakly against his shoulder as I hesitated in silence. Sean's tone remained calm and patient. It's okay. I respect your decision. I had barely sighed in relief before he threatened me again, slowly kneading and playing with my fingers as if casually chatting. He murmured, "But try to make it soon, all right? You wouldn't want me to run out of patience and start using those things, right?" The memory of those items I'd seen that day instantly made cold sweat form on my back, probably because Sean and I had been gone too long. Tiffany came looking for us. Sean, brother? The approaching footsteps made me panic. What do we do? I looked up at Sean, who still appeared perfectly composed. Finally, just before Tiffany walked in, Sean pulled me into an inconspicuous corner nearby. Sean, brother? Are you here? I kept paying attention to Tiffany's movements, terrified she might discover us. Yet Sean still had the leisure to joke around at a moment like this. She doesn't say it as nicely as you do. I didn't react at first. Blinking blankly, I let out a quiet, "Huh? What did she call me?" Sean trapped me within the narrow corner and lowered his eyes to ask. Instinctively, I answered, "Sean, brother." He chuckled softly in satisfaction. Only then did I realize he'd done it on purpose. The tiny spark of annoyance that had just risen inside me immediately died out the second I met Sean's affectionate gaze, the kind of eyes that looked deeply loving even when staring at a dog. I had to admit it. This occasionally insane pervert was ridiculously handsome. That strange flutter in my chest lingered even after Sean dropped us off at the school gate and drove away. I kept staring absent-mindedly in the direction he had left. Can't bear to part with my brother? Oscar's mocking voice pulled me back to reality. He grabbed my chin and forced me to look directly at him. I'm telling you right now, you'll never have a chance with him. He already likes someone, even though I've never met her. I still know a plain girl like you could never compare. I immediately slapped his hand away and pulled out a tissue to wipe the spot he had touched. Oscar's voice darkened dangerously. You think I'm dirty? Obviously. At this point, even staying in the same space as Oscar made me uncomfortable. As I walked away, I kept thinking about what he had just said. Sean liked someone, and maybe because my brain worked in such a ridiculously straightforward way. In this situation, I shamelessly started believing that the person Sean liked might actually be me. Chapter 9. I was planning to find the right moment to ask Sean about it myself, but he ended up coming to me first. I was walking around the track memorizing vocabulary words. Only when I reached near the main gate did I notice Sean stepping out of his car. My brain instantly short-circuited. I ripped off my earphones and ran toward him. Why didn't you tell me you were coming here to see me? As I complained, I tugged on his sleeve and dragged him toward a more secluded spot. Sean followed me for a few steps before grabbing my wrist instead. A faint smile lingered on the man's lips. his expression carrying a hint of helpless amusement. I'm here to discuss donation matters. I froze, standing there in the cold wind, drowning in embarrassment. So, he wasn't here for me at all, to outsiders. It probably looked like I was desperately clinging to Sean. And clearly, Tiffany interpreted it exactly that way. Wow, Tina, your appetite sure is huge. Huh? You want both Oscar and Sean? With her hands behind her back, she walked over smiling sweetly. But honestly, I could tell from all the way over there that Sean looked disgusted by you. As she spoke, she reached over, trying to pull my hand off Sean's sleeve, but Sean directly avoided her touch. What exactly did you see? And besides, since when did I ever have a little sister like you? With a half smile, he looked directly at Tiffany while pulling me behind him. Only then did Tiffany finally react, her eyes widening in complete shock. Sean, you like her? She's your little brother's girlfriend. I frowned and peeked out from behind Sean. What are you talking about? Oscar and I broke up ages ago. Tiffany froze again. Oscar never said that. He still tells everyone publicly that you're his girlfriend. Expressionless. I let out an indifferent "oh" before casually making something up. Probably because he's my dream guy. Tiffany's pretentious coquette act finally cracked apart after being hit with 2 bombshell revelations in a row. She didn't even bother continuing her self-righteous moral lecture. Instead, she quickly turned and stormed back toward the school. After Tiffany's interruption, I suddenly remembered the question I'd been meaning to ask all along. Sean. I turned around and looked at him seriously. Do you actually like me? If he denied it, he'd instantly become the #1 scumbag in the city. Sean nodding was already within my expectations. After thinking carefully for a few seconds, I decided to temporarily take on the role of a teacher. If you like me, then you can pursue me properly. Stop threatening me. Trying to chase a girl like that will only backfire. Even though most of his threats were only verbal and he had never actually done anything truly terrible, Sean seemed to genuinely take my words seriously. After pondering for a few moments, he finally said, "Okay, I won't do anything you dislike. Then how do you want me to pursue you?" The question was far too direct. This teacher was completely unable to handle it. With flushed cheeks, I answered him in an overly serious tone. Well, that'll be your self-study course. Chapter 10. When I arrived downstairs at the dorm building, I wasn't too surprised to see Oscar there. Coincidentally, I also wanted to confront him and get things straight. Why did you tell Tiffany we broke up? The moment he spoke, he exploded in anger. I only found it baffling. We already broke up. The fact that you kept telling people I was still your girlfriend is what counts as spreading rumors. Oscar genuinely looked like he had no idea. I pulled up the breakup text and shoved it in front of him. I already informed you. Oscar's expression darkened as he opened his own message screen for me to see. I never received it. Nina, if I had seen it immediately, I would never have agreed. All these days, I kept waiting for you to calm down, but I never once thought about breaking up with you. I calmly put my phone away. If you didn't get it, then now you know. And breaking up doesn't require your permission. Oscar, I don't like you anymore. There's no point clinging to me. Oscar frowned deeply and blocked my path. You don't like me anymore? There was mockery in his gaze. You changed your heart pretty fast. Is it because of Sean? You fell for someone else, didn't you? Oscar squeezed my shoulders so hard it hurt. You and him were already messing around behind my back. Nina, when did you become this cheap? The moment his last word fell, I finally broke free and slapped him hard across the face. Oscar, are all scumbags like you? You're already a rotten player yourself. What right do you have to accuse anyone else? The air around him felt polluted. I walked past him straight toward the dorm building. 1 second before entering, a cold laugh suddenly came from behind me. Nina, once you broke up with me, there'll never be another chance to make up. You should know this. Oscar, never fucking lack women. My first reaction was relief. I had finally gotten rid of Oscar completely. Chapter 11. But reality proved the opposite. After that, I could see Oscar in almost every class. He always had Tiffany in his arms, acting intimately with her, yet he never officially acknowledged their relationship. Sometimes during class, those two flies irritated me so much I lost patience. Instead, Sean became my emotional antidote. He pursued me awkwardly, almost like he was following a script word for word. Yet the contrast made him strangely adorable. For example, the entire trunk full of flowers. Why did you buy so many? I looked at him in confusion. Sean answered like he was submitting homework. I didn't know which kind you liked, and I couldn't directly ask you, so I just bought a few varieties the florist recommended first. I became even more confused. Why can't you just ask me directly? Sean sounded like he was reciting rules from memory. I looked it up. If I ask directly, there won't be any surprise. I burst out laughing instantly. I was just about to tease him a little when I looked up and suddenly realized how close we were. The man's face was right in front of mine. Sean stared at me without blinking, emotions surging in his eyes. What are you doing? My back was pressed against the car, with nowhere left to retreat. Sean's gaze lowered to the lower half of my face. I want to hold you. I also want to kiss you. I reminded him softly. But we're not together yet. Sean answered gently, though his gaze never moved away even slightly. Then I'll keep pursuing you. Without his usual carefree confidence, Sean seemed a little clumsy, but beneath that clumsiness was sincere affection. Under the soft glow of the sunset that day, my heart skipped a beat for this version of Sean. Over the next few days, I occasionally found myself thinking about one question. Only 2 months after breaking up with Oscar, I had already fallen for his older brother. Did that make me someone who fell in love too easily too? But I figured it out soon enough. The very second after a breakup, I regained the right to love someone else and to accept someone else's love. Besides, Oscar wasn't worth me staying emotionally tied to him after the breakup. The faster I moved on, the smaller the sunk cost I wasted on him would be. Chapter 12. One night, Oscar, who hadn't shown up in a long time, came looking for me again. Stay away from me, or I'll call the police. I spoke first, warning him coldly. Oscar didn't step closer. He casually stopped where he was. Then he chuckled lightly. After not seeing each other for so long, you've probably already slept with Sean by now. Huh? I smiled too. Who I sleep with has nothing to do with you. Oscar wasn't angry either. His tone stayed calm. I originally wanted to explain that I didn't see the breakup text because Tiffany deleted it for me. But judging from your reaction now, you probably don't care anymore. The main reason I came today is to let you see Sean's true colors. I cautiously stayed silent. I heard the old man in my family intends to arrange a marriage alliance for Sean. He definitely talked to Sean about it too. The Song family's stock price and a perfectly matched marriage partner compared to someone insignificant like you. Who do you think he'll choose? Before I fully understood what he meant, Oscar Song opened a live news video and shoved it in front of me. Sean was in the middle of an interview. President Song, according to rumors online, you've been financially supporting a female college student at a university, and there are multiple photos as evidence. What would you like to say about this? I instantly understood Oscar's intentions. He had deliberately caught Sean off guard, forcing him to make a choice immediately. If Sean admitted it, the arranged marriage would fall apart and the company's stock would plummet, even though only a few short seconds passed before Sean answered. It felt to me like more than 10 minutes. My hand holding the phone trembled uncontrollably. Then I heard his usual calm, gentle voice. Just rumors. Sean looked lazily toward the camera, his gaze distant and detached. The reporter refused to let it go. Then how do you explain the photos of you giving the same girl flowers, gifts, and driving her around? Sean's expression remained completely unshaken. I'm pursuing her. The entire scene erupted instantly. Oscar and I, watching from the screen, were both stunned speechless. Sean lifted his wrist and glanced at his watch. Any more questions? I need to pick her up after class. Even the reporter Oscar had hired was dumbfounded, unable to say another word. I only snapped back to reality after Sean completely disappeared from the screen. Nina, he was just... I had completely run out of patience with Oscar. I pulled out the pepper spray I had prepared long ago from my bag and sprayed him wildly. Oscar, stay the hell away from me. I'm afraid of catching a disease. I took the chance to leave. After returning my books to the dorm, I headed downstairs again. Just as Sean arrived, I happily skipped downstairs toward him. You're late today. Sean brushed it off casually. Sorry, I had an interview. I didn't ask further and simply tilted my head while looking at him. Sean. So how are you planning to pursue me today? Sean followed his textbook strategy step by step. Some sources mentioned that spending money is also a necessary process. He pulled a velvet box from his coat. A white diamond bracelet I won at an auction in Hong Kong a week ago. Even though I didn't understand jewelry, I could tell it was incredibly expensive. I stepped closer to Sean and asked casually, "Did your sources also tell you when I'd agree to be with you?" Sean looked like he had encountered a question beyond the syllabus. He simply stared at me silently, unable to answer. I crashed into his arms. The scent of pine mixed with faint tobacco surrounded me. Right now, I gave him the answer for him. On a completely unexpected day. Chapter 13. I originally thought we would have some tender moment of emotional honesty, but after a brief pause, Sean simply wrapped his arms around me in silence. Sean, buried in his coat. I spoke in a muffled voice. Don't you have anything to say? Sean lightly bit my earlobe. I haven't held you for too long. Right now, I just want to hold you for a while. I accepted that answer and burrowed deeper into his embrace. At first, I thought he was some obsessive psycho, but in reality, he was capable of sweet, innocent love too, the kind of pitifully adorable man who could be satisfied with just a hug. It felt like once you started liking someone, you'd want to stay glued to them all the time. Since I happened to have no classes that afternoon, I directly followed Sean back to his place. The moment we entered, he lifted me into his arms. My legs wrapped around his waist as I lowered my head and held his face while kissing him. I kissed him teasingly, brushing against his lips before pulling away immediately. Do you want to kiss me? My thumb rubbed against his lower lip. Sean's hand tightened around my waist, his voice turning low and dangerous. Yes. I pressed my nose lightly against his and continued asking softly. How should we kiss? Boyfriend? A deep kiss? Sean took a deep breath. The warning sign before his self-control collapsed. Give it to me. I curved my lips into a smile and lowered my head. Okay. Sean parted his lips slightly, accepting my kiss. But in truth, I was only teasing him confidently on the surface. I actually had no experience. I accidentally bit him several times. Without realizing it, he gradually took back control. He pinned me against the couch, responding to me with silent yet overwhelming kisses. When Sean's kisses began trailing lower, my phone rang at the worst possible moment. Wait. I need to answer this first. I pushed weakly against the man buried against my neck and shoulder. It was a voice call from my roommate. Holy shit. Holy shit. Nina, why aren't you replying to my messages? Quick, go online. That scumbag Oscar, Tiffany, and even you got exposed online. I immediately hung up and opened the webpage. The top trending post on the school forum was photos of Oscar and Tiffany checking into a hotel together. Although censored, it was still obvious how scandalous the situation was. The post had been uploaded by a girl Oscar had cheated on before. She exposed both Oscar and Tiffany while calling him out publicly. The post only mentioned me briefly, saying I was another victim who had been hurt by Oscar. I silently gave the post a like and was about to exit when an unfamiliar number suddenly called me. Oscar had switched to another new number again. The boy's voice sounded urgent. Nina, did you see the post? Listen to my explanation. Tiffany and I only did it that one time. I really never slept with anyone else. You're the only girlfriend I ever truly acknowledged. At some point, Sean had already pulled me onto his lap. He lightly gripped my chin. He's calling now because he wants me to kill him? His voice traveled clearly through the phone speaker into Oscar's ears. Who's talking? Oscar instantly exploded, his voice several octaves louder. Nina, who are you with right now? Sean, right? I'm fucking coming to find you too right now. Sean lost patience and directly snatched my phone away, hanging up the call. He's annoying. I nodded in agreement, then shifted positions, straddling his lap. I leaned closer. Let's continue. As I spoke, I leaned in to kiss him again. Neither of us took Oscar seriously. Naturally, he never managed to find us either. The girls he had cheated on, including Tiffany, wouldn't even let him leave campus safely. But reality became even more dramatic. After hearing about the scandal, Old Master Song found Oscar Song utterly humiliating. He originally planned to throw him overseas and leave him there to fend for himself. However, Tiffany suddenly showed up at the Song family carrying a pregnancy test report. Old Master Song softened for once. He arranged for Oscar to take Tiffany to New Zealand so she could rest and recover during the pregnancy. But the word cheater was carved deep into Oscar's bones. When Tiffany was only 3 months pregnant, he cheated again with a foreign actress overseas and ended up trending online. After hearing the news, Tiffany became so furious that she miscarried. This time, Old Master Song didn't hesitate at all. No matter how Oscar begged, he ruthlessly dumped him in North Africa. I didn't see Oscar again until Sean and I got engaged. The once elegant heir was now exhausted and dispirited. Behind his back, countless people mocked him with the same sentence. He totally deserved it. Chapter 14. In contrast, Sean must have been an exceptionally outstanding student back in school. He was studious to an extreme degree. Want me to take you out today? Sean seemed almost touch-starved. Most of his free time was spent holding me in his arms. I shook my head and lazily curled up against him. Don't want to. Sean continued endlessly. Then what do you want? I finally sat up from his embrace. Did you learn this from your research materials too? He gave a slight nod. This is the advanced version. Methods to strengthen a relationship. I laughed helplessly while pressing a hand to my forehead. Stop treating everything like a textbook. I never agreed to date you because of things you learned from guides in the first place. Sean leaned down to kiss me and asked sincerely. Then what should I do to make you like me even more? I gave him a quick peck on the lips. For now, just kiss me once in a while. Sean treated my casual remark like an updated edition of his study materials. Finally, one day, I couldn't take it anymore. Before Sean could lean over and kiss me again, I covered his mouth. That's enough. I pointed at the corner of my lips, where the skin had broken. Sean, take a good look. This is all your fault. I didn't dare brush him off anymore and seriously explained it to him. When people date, it's supposed to be about what makes both people comfortable. You can't keep acting so mechanically. Chapter 15. After hearing that, Sean seemed to completely throw away his restraints. He turned back into the person I first met. So this is the kind of thing that makes both people feel good? The light above us swayed softly. I gritted my teeth and refused to admit it. But Sean had countless ways to force an answer out of me. He tied his belt around both our wrists. Let's stay tied together forever, okay? I think I can't be apart from you for even a second anymore. Sean's low, husky voice carried unmistakable obsession. Say, Sean, are you insane? The man chuckled softly and openly admitted it. At the very end, he told me, the moment he first saw me, he had already imagined a future far ahead with me in it. Because I was scared, he had deliberately hidden away his darker side, forcing himself to pursue me in the awkward, inexperienced way of an ordinary person. That was when I finally learned that Sean Song was actually the adopted son of the Song family. He had never been a naturally privileged heir with the freedom to indulge recklessly like Oscar. From being nothing more than the Song family's puppet to becoming the true man in power today, every step Sean took had been filled with danger. Developing an abnormal personality wasn't something he had wished for either. My limbs trembled as I buried myself in Sean's arms with the determination of someone marching toward death. Then in front of me, you don't have to deliberately hide it anymore. Then I cautiously added. But if possible, let's slowly change together. If this level of insanity continued forever, I might actually die. Maybe it was because he truly listened to me, or maybe because neither of us had any energy left afterward. Fortunately, after that conversation, I finally got a peaceful night's sleep. A long time later, one day while waiting for Sean to get off work and casually watching TV, I happened to see another live news report about the Song Corporation. After many years, his private life was once again brought up. Today is the engagement day of the second daughter of the Zhao family, who was once rumored to have an arranged marriage with you. It's said that your public admission years ago, that the person you pursued was someone else, was what caused the alliance to fall through. Chairman Song, may we ask how you feel about that? I immediately took out my phone to search for information about Miss Zhao. It turned out she had married her childhood sweetheart and personally admitted they had been in a relationship for 7 years. Clearly, even if the marriage alliance had happened, she wouldn't have wanted it either. Sean still answered carelessly as always. Congratulations on the engagement. Only now, compared to back then, Sean carried far more of an aura of authority. The reporter smiled and continued gossiping. Then may we ask one more question? Did things work out between you and the woman you pursued back then? Rarely. Sean looked directly into the camera. At that moment, it felt as though the screen had disappeared entirely. Across the distance, Sean and I locked eyes. Then I heard the same gentle voice I had always known. She is now my wife.